Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Congressman Ron Paul is going to be calling in sometime in the second half hour of this broadcast today to get into the accelerating debt bubble and how bad it's going to get, and some other breaking key intel. So former Congressman Ron Paul, I have to get used to saying that, is joining us coming up later in the hour, and then Mike Adams is going to be in studio with us today. And in case you missed it, we're going to probably air the first 5-10 minutes of one of the most prominent Second Amendment advocates out there. You know who that is. Ted Nugent, who I know lives north of Austin on a large ranch. He's been on the show many times over the last 15 years, but hadn't been on in about a year. He called into the show, and it was powerful radio because he wasn't in his promotions mode when he's doing, 5 interviews a day. A lot of people like that have a system where they do interviews in bulk a few times a year, and then that's it. And when they're not doing interviews, they're not doing them. And so when you get interviews with folks like that, and they're kind of on the circuit, you're just getting like a recording. That is not what happened yesterday, and we had some really good talks off air. He didn't say it was off record, but it'll just remain off record. But looks like I may drive up to interview him in the next month or so before he goes back on tour, or get him in studio. Who knows? But in fact, guys, remind me, I'm not name dropping here. I already had his info before, but I never had his cell phone. Where's Ted's cell phone that I had written down in here? I left it in here yesterday. I was supposed to call him last night. All right. I just forgot so that's another problem. I'm just completely overwhelmed. Literally. It's getting to the point where I don't even know what's going on anymore. Is that it? Okay, good. Thank you. Anyways, I was supposed to... And side issue, ladies and gentlemen. I get in here, I get on air, and then my brain kind of clicks on. I'm like, whoa. Well, you know how I tell stories. I start talking about something, and then I just kind of start regurgitating whatever's on the top of my mind concerning that. But pretty amazing stuff I talked about with Ted Nugent off air. So we'll see about getting him on air with us in a face-to-face interview, or at least over the phone. But wow, a lot of stuff going on in the world today. We're working on a very big news story that will damage the establishment media big time. I'll just leave it at that. It's top-level A+ scandal, 5-star scandal. But there's lots of cold feet stuff going on, and so I'm not worried about it, really. If God wants this information to come out, it will. And if God doesn't want this information to come out, it won't. And I'm the type of person that'll release it if I'm authorized to. It's confirmed. But if I'm not authorized to, then I'm not going to even push the people to cover it. And, it's the kind of thing like I take a risk releasing stories like this. So it's kind of like, okay, I got the huevos to release this if it falls in my lap. And it's not any scandal stuff with hookers or anything, so there's no need for a hit team to come kill us. Plus, the government's listening to all the phones. They already know. People that have cold feet, there's really no need to, because the only thing you ought to have cold feet about is the fact that you're sitting on top stuff like that. But it deals with media things. I mean, it'll be a big news story, just to say the least. If it ends up coming out. Okay, I'm going to reset, refocus, and come back. It's a gigantic news day. And speaking of big news, there's some other big news that's going to be breaking tomorrow. Michael Savage is also joining us tomorrow, but that's a separate issue. And it's just things are all accelerating. But they're accelerating on so many other fronts as well. They call it a quickening. We'll be right back. little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even though I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. You've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Well, my friends, it's another Monday, the 25th day of February, 2013. Before we know it, 2013 will be a memory. And the Second Amendment and our republic and the dollar and our whole future if we don't get awake and involved right now. Okay, folks, we've got an unbelievably jam-packed broadcast today. Ron Paul's coming on in about 30 minutes. He'll be joining us, Congressman Ron Paul, former Congressman Ron Paul, about the economy and a lot more. So that is coming up with really the grand poobah of the libertarian constitutional movement. Ron Paul needs no introduction, and then Mike Adams will be breaking a whole bunch of important health news with organics and not just the horse meat in the beef food chain, but also we're going to be getting into the things you've really got to worry about, including not just fake fish or fish being substituted, but some really bizarre stuff on that front. I've not covered what's happening with the Vatican enough, and I do need to speak to that. Another cardinal is resigning, Cardinal Keith O'Brien, reportedly because of a string of boyfriends. And if it isn't true, why is he resigning, ladies and gentlemen? Why is Pope Benedict Ratzinger stepping down? The point here is, though, is that these scandals have been under the surface forever. Why is this all surfacing now? Well, what did I tell you months ago? They're only bringing out the Savelle stuff with the BBC and the Satanism and the necrophilia and the torturing kids and the royal family to blackmail the royal family and the British establishment. The system could bring it down right now. The globalists, that's the mega banks, are blackmailing the Vatican right now. This is when you get down to the final end game in global government, is when they start knocking each other off, because there's been a sharing of power between the major players. And it is really coming to a head right now. Major globalist private intelligence infiltration of the Vatican, of the British royal family. And it's all being orchestrated by a handful of ultra-mega banks who control the entire globe, basically, at this point, and are mopping up a few countries that are left. Then they're going to mop up free speech, mop up the family, mop up your bank account, and bankrupt you as a tool of total economic domination, and then pose as saviors, collectivizing everything and putting you on welfare. They're now talking about going over 50 million Americans on food stamps, and food stamps for people's pets. And so everything will be paid for as long as you submit and take the vaccines and don't have children. That is going to be part of the larger program. And those of us that don't just want to be complete government slaves are going to be called terrorists. Now, this is a pretty nightmare program of the globalist, but it can be stopped if we speak out and realize the plan. But if we keep dialing into mainstream television and mainstream politics that only gives you a tiny sliver of the larger spectrum, we will be blind, we will be rudderless, we will be thrown upon the rocks and crushed in little bitty pieces societally. It is a very cold-blooded program, a scientific blueprint takeover. But knowing the blueprint and knowing how horrible it is for the general public is a way to trigger our survival instinct and to get humanity firing in the right direction against tyranny. That's why they try to sell giving up, being nihilistic, not caring, being into death, being into being a slave, while you still have plenty of food and water and entertainment. I mean, these people thinking death and all this is sexy, and being slaves and being humiliated and being tortured is cool because it's, cutting edge and because they don't care. They haven't really experienced it yet. So it is a fancy that has been sold to them that they think they like, but not a real fancy. Because if you really fancy something, you need to have experienced it and actually like it. Like, if you think you'd fancy having a dog when you're 17 and move out of home, and you put a big dog in a small apartment, it chews everything up and urinates all over the rug and everything and chews holes in the walls and ruins your life, and then you just dump the dog or give it to the pound, so you aren't a real dog fancier. You didn't do what it took to actually train the dog, care about the dog, take the dog around with you. You don't actually like a dog. You weren't a true dog fancier. And those of you that fancy tyranny and you think it's powerful and it's